Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is WireDogSec, back with another video for you guys. Hopefully you're all having an awesome day today. Today's video, we're going to continue on with day number 10 of TryHackMe Event of Cyber 2023 event. All right, it's going to be covering SQL injection. Inject the halls with exec queries. Before we get into it, you know what to do. Hit that like button if you're new here. A lot of y'all watching are not subscribed to my channel. So be sure to hit that subscribe button as well and hit that notification bell, and then comment below your thoughts and opinions on the video and the information shared, all that good stuff. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. All right, we're going to continue on with the story here, so be sure to read that if you're interested in the story. We're going to skim over a lot of this here because it is a lot of text to read through. I highly recommend going in and checking out the room yourself and reading through everything. All right. Now, let's get to the learning objectives. It says in today's task, you will learn to understand and identify SQL injection vulnerabilities, exploit stacked queries to turn SQL injection into remote code execution, help Elf make Red restore the best festival website and save its reputation. Right here it shows you how to launch the machine and all that good stuff here. Over here it talks about SQL, right? SQL stands for, or SQL stands for Structured Query Language, is essential for working with relational databases and building dynamic websites. Even if you're never explicitly used SQL before, chances are you frequently interact with databases, and you can see the rest there. It's basically just over what SQL is, what it consists of, yada yada yada. Right? Talking about like tables and such here. Right? You got customers, orders, products. You got items of those particular tables. Right? All right. Let's go ahead and continue on down here. It says SQL provides a rigid way to query, insert, update, and delete the data stored in these tables, allowing you to retrieve and alter databases as needed. A website or application that relies on a database must dynamically generate SQL queries and send them to the database engine to fetch or update the data or necessary data. The syntax of SQL queries is based on English and consists of structured commands using keywords like select, from, where, and join to express operations in a natural language-like way. It says we're going to leverage an example of a database table to represent the tracking and cataloging of Christmas tree ornaments. The table and column structure might look something like this. You got ornament ID 12345, elf ID 1234, 116, 102, 102, color, category, material, date created, price. So you get the point, right? Now let's continue on here. It says in simple uh, example above, we have defined a database table underscore ornaments, to store ornaments with various columns that provide characteristics or qualities related to each item. We can run various SQL queries against the table to retrieve, update, or delete specific data. Here's an example of that. Select from table underscore ornaments where material equals wood. And these are just more examples of how to use specific queries to get what you need out of these tables, right? That's pretty much what SQL injection is. You're doing all these queries to try to exfiltrate some data or some specific sensitive information from the table, compromised table, or the database. And let's continue on here. PHP says PHP is a popular general purpose scripting language that plays a crucial role in web development. It enables developers to create dynamic and interactive websites by generating HTML content on the server and delivering it to the client's web browser. PHP's versatility and seamless integration with SQL databases make it a powerful tool for building feature-rich dynamic web applications. Says PHP is a server-side scripting language, meaning that the code is executed on the web server before the final HTML is sent to the user's browser. And you can see the rest there. It starts talking about a range of databases such as MySQL, PostgreSQL, and Microsoft SQL servers, various different ones. You can see there. Right, it's got a little image here of an example of executing how the process works. Say MySQL server, particularly obtain data, web server, dynamic page, web server, page request, PHP file, PHP. See how it works here. And it says the most common way for PHP to connect to SQL or databases is using the PHP Data Objects PDO extension or specific database servers like MySQLi or for MySQL or SQL SRV for Microsoft SQL Server MS SQL. or MSQL, whatever you want to pronounce it. The connection is typically established by providing parameters such as the host, username, password, and database name. After establishing a database connection, we can execute SQL queries through PHP and dynamically generate HTML content based on the return data to display information such as user profiles, product listings, or blog articles. Returning to our example, if we want our PHP script to fetch information regarding any green colored ornaments, we could introduce the following lines. It's got an example right here. Execute a SQL query. Query equals select from table underscore ornaments where color equals green. Results SQL SRV underscore query, connection query. All right. And it tells you what this all means here. In the buff snippet, we first save our SQL query into a variable name query or $ query. And you can read the rest here. Basically tells you, it explains what this is, what it does. User input. While the ability to execute SQL queries and PHP allows us to interact with our database, the real power of database-driven web applications lies in making these queries dynamic. In our previous example, the hard-coded the query to fetch green ornaments. However, real-world applications often require users to interact with data. For instance, let's imagine we want to provide users with the ability to search for ornaments of their choice. In this case, we need to create dynamic queries that can be adjusted based on user input. One common way to take in user supplied data is, or in web application, is the get parameters. All right, that's going to be very important. These parameters are typically applied to the URL and can be accessed by PHP, yada, yada, yada. We can create a simple search form with an input field for users specify the color of ornaments they want. Upon submitting the form, the website makes a GET request to search web result. Including the user's search parameters within the URL. PHP can access the user's input as a get parameter and dynamically generate a query based on the input. It's got examples here. Retrieve the get parameter and save it as a variable. Color equals $_ get color. Execute a SQL query with the user supplied variable. Query equals select from yada yada yada. You can see the rest there. And it basically explains this up above as well. It goes further into it. Let's see here. Now users can dynamically control the query by executing the database simply by modifying the URL parameter they include in their request. For example, it's got the example of the actual website. See, color equals green here. This is the parameter right here, green. You're going to be putting some stuff in there for. All right, it basically explains what it does. Color equals green, yada yada yada. It says this simple example shows how powerful PHP and SQL can be in creating rich dynamic websites. SQL injection or SQL injection, SQLi or SQLi, however you want to pronounce it. I'm just going to call it SQLi or SQL injection. Taking in user supplied input gives us powerful ways to create dynamic content, but failing to secure this input correctly can expose a critical vulnerability known as SQL injection or SQLi. SQL injection is an attack technique that exploits how web applications handle user input, particularly in SQL queries. Instead of providing legitimate input like the ornament color in the example above, the attacker injects malicious SQL statements into a web application's input fields or parameters. The application's database server then executes this rogue SQL query. All right, so SQL injection vulnerabilities pose a considerable risk to web applications as they can lead to unauthorized access, data theft, data manipulation, and et cetera here. SQL injection vulnerabilities continue to be highly pervasive despite numerous advancements to mitigate them. This type of vulnerability is featured prominently in the OWASP top 10. Very important if you're going to be getting into web application testing, penetration testing, etc. in that area. List of critical web application security risks, A03 colon 2021 dash injection. So be sure to check this out, OWASP Top 10, if you're interested in that area. Continue on here. It just gives you basically some more examples, right? So we're going to continue on. Without adequate security measures, an attacker could manipulate the color parameter to execute malicious SQL queries. For instance, instead of searching for benign color, they might input single quote or 1 equals 1 space dash dash as the input parameter, which would transfer the query into the following down here, as you can see. And it basically goes in and explains how it does its thing right here, breaks it down by each little segment here. So we're going to continue on down below. A caution around or 1 equals 1. It's crucial to emphasize the potential risk of using or 1 equals 1 payload. While commonly used for illustration, injecting it without caution can lead to unintended havoc on a database. When injecting or 1 equals 1 into a query, the intention is typically to bypass authentication or to return all items in a table by making the condition always true. However, the risk lie in that you might not be aware of the context scope of the query you're injecting into. Additionally, applications may sometimes use values for an initial request in multiple SQL queries. SQL injection payloads that return all rows can lead to unintended consequences when injected into different types of statements, such as update or delete. Right, basically, it's just explaining. I mean, if you're going to use any of these items here, any of the syntax, these or equals one, whatever, make sure you know what you're doing and not just blindly inputting things. This is why you practice in like a lab environment. You're not just going to go to like a customer, say, hey, let me just try out all these different SQL queries and commands and see what they do, right? No, you're going to cause an outage or something like that. So let's go ahead and continue on here. And talks about stack queries. So be sure to read through here. Testing for SQL injection. All right, I've already started the machine, so we're going to take a look at that in a second here. I believe that's it. Yep, let's continue on. So we're going to take a look and go through all this here, and then we're going to answer all these questions. So let's go ahead and get down into the VM. Got the VM fired up, got the website open on index.php up here. As you can see, the website's all jacked up. Welcome to Santa's Workshop. It's got a bunch of stuff looks like graffiti, right? They basically vandalized the website. Now, when you're actually doing this stuff in real life, you're going to be looking around, playing around with different inputs and such, doing some testing, manual testing. Make sure you can try to find some type of parameters where you can inject your commands and such into. Now it says first question here is to manually navigate through the website to find the vulnerable search form. What is the first web page you come across that contains a gift finding feature? All right, you're gonna go up here to the hamburger menu, and you're gonna go to gift search here, right? Because you want to find gifts. Now, when you click that, it says start my gift search. So we'll go ahead and click this button here and see what it does. All right, now we're on a different page. It says giftsearch.php. Scrolling down here, and this looks pretty neat. It says search, age, child, yada, yada, yada. Okay, well, let's just click the search button and see what it does. And then you just read up here, you can see the actual output of what it looks like, right? So these are what we're going to manipulate, right? These are parameters. So age equals child and budget equals 0, right? So what I'm going to do is delete this out of here, and I'm just going to put in a single quote, see what it does. All right, and there we go. It threw us a big error. So make sure to put gifs results.php is going to be answers to that one. And it says analyze the SQL message that is returned. What ODBC driver is being used in the back end of the website. So I'm going to scroll through here, and it says right there, all right, OBCD or ODBC driver 17 for SQL Server. That's going to be the answer to that one. And you may come across this in a CTF or in the real world. You're going to use, something basic like a single quote and see what it does. It throws you an error code, then yeah, that's a pretty serious issue. It's giving you information. This is information disclosure here, right? This should not be happening. It should not be displaying all this valuable information to the attacker. Now let's continue on. It says inject the 1 equals 1 condition into the gift search form. What is the last result returned in the database? So let's go ahead and try that here. Okay, so we got our query in here, single quote or 1 equals 1 dash dash, hit enter, and it should give you a list of items down here. And if you go all the way to the bottom here, you'll get that particular flag that you're looking for here for the last result, and there you have it. Next question says, what is the flag uh, in the note file Greetster left behind on the system? Now, the keyword here is on the system, so you're going to have to get some kind of remote code execution. So let's go ahead and start doing that. Okay, in order to get remote code execution, get a shell in the box, we can use something called xp underscore command shell, right? It says xp underscore command shell is a system extended stored procedure in Microsoft SQL Server that enables the execution of operating system commands and programs within SQL Server. it provides a mechanism for a SQL server to interact directly with the host operating system's command shell. While it can be a powerful administrative tool, it can be a risky security, or it can be a security risk if not used cautiously. And it says it's also possible to manually enable it, which is what we're going to do right now. This is what it looks like. So we can attempt to enable XP underscore command shell by stacking the following commands using SQL injection we discovered, right? So basically we're going to convert this into this, which I've already have pasted over, and we're going to enable it. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to hit one, or click enter here. You're not going to know if it was successful or not, but we're going to know here shortly after we get the remote code execution on it. All right, it goes in and talks about it. Here, it talks about downloading the generating the payload with MSF Venom, reverse.exe, which I've already done everything here. So this is my payload, and it's going to talk about using Python HTTP server, which I have running here, and we're going to use this here to actually execute cert.exe to download the payload, which is the verse exe, onto the victim machine. So let's go ahead and do that. And I have this already pulled up here. Hit enter. Okay, that's not in that one. It was this one here. Okay, yeah. Okay, so it's in there on the victim machine, and it wants us to use netcat listener, which I already have fired up here. Right now, we're going to need to actually execute a command to connect back to that netcat listener, which is going to be this here. So I'm just going to copy and paste it into the URL bar up there, and we're going to execute it here shortly. Let's see. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so enter. See, it looks like it's just stuck spinning here, but it's not. It's actually made a connection back to my attacker machine. As you can see there, we got remote code execution. So host name, just basic stuff here. Host name, who am I, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so now it wants us to go in and find some flags on this machine here. It says the note file for Greedster. So I imagine that's a username. So let's go ahead and try to find that flag. So I'm going to cd, I believe it's cd, and then get back. Okay, there we go. Do a dir. cd into users. It sounds like a username. So let's go ahead and do that. Users. Let's do dir. There's an administrator file here. So let's check that. Is there anything useful in here? Oop, dir. And let's see, maybe desktop has something on it. So desktop, if I can spell it correctly. All right, so let's do a dir. Anything useful in here? There's backups, there's notes. So let's go ahead and see what note says. I believe it's cat note.exe. It's not cat. Okay, I think it's maybe type note.txt. There we go. And there's the flag here, Greedster. So that's the flag that one out says, what's the flag you receive on the home page after restoring the website? So let's go ahead and find that. Let's restore the website and find that particular flag here. All right, now there are instructions here. It says how to deface it, how to restore the website. You're going to run this batch script here, restore website. So let's go ahead and do that. Run it. It says removing all files and folders from there, yada, yada, yada. It says refresh index.php. So let's go back here and see. Let's see if it lets us go back. Okay, so it was index.php. There we go. There's the last flag. Bam. So this is the end of it. And it says if you enjoyed this task, feel free to check out software security module. All right. You can also do this with SQL map probably. Just for fun, let's try it with SQL map. I have everything listed out here. SQL map -u for the URL. Get the URL there and got the injectable parameter right there. And then OS shell. So let's go ahead and hit enter. Let's see what it does here. See, as you can see, it's running. It says, do you want SQL map to try to optimize values, yada, yada, yada. Let's go ahead and just default through this stuff here. All right. It says adjusting time delay to 1 second due to good response times. And it looks like it worked. All right, so let's try it. Let's do who am I? Let's do yes. Okay. Let's retrieve 2. All right, it's going very slow. Well, you can see it works. I mean, if you go back and look at this here, it said it discovered operating system Windows 10 or 2016, Microsoft IIS, PHP 8.2.11. Back end is running Microsoft SQL Server 2016. It says testing if using current users is DBA, testing if XP underscore command shell extended procedures usable. And as you saw above, we did that manually. It says used SQL query, returns 1 entries, and it looks like it's working. It's just going very, very slow. All right, so that's pretty much the end of this video. I'm going to post a link to PortSwigger's web academy. I recommend checking it out if you're interested in web app penetration testing, web app security testing, yada, 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 all that good stuff. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're new here with the notification bell. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and then comment below your thoughts and opinions on the information shared. As always, thank you for watching. Have a good day. I'll see you later.